Well, hello, hello. This is Karin Zoe Lee, and you're listening to Lotus Moon Productions. Welcome to LMP Music. Whatever the music, whatever the tune, we're here to learn, discuss, and promote the independent music scene. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the next 45 minutes as Shugo Hanasaki tackles the music industry one artist at a time.
Welcome back to the independent music side of Lotus Moon Productions. Happy New Year, everyone. We made it. It's now 2021. Congrats on making it through one hell of a year. This year, I'm motivated, I'm focused, and I'm really looking forward to not only connecting with many music artists, but to bring you guys quality interviews that you won't want to miss. And with that being said, we're back today with a new guest. This duo has been releasing iconic music within the synth community since 2017 with their debut release single, Staying Here, and releasing their first album, Alchemy, that same year as well. Throughout 2018 to the present day, they have released their second and third album entitled Explorers and Neon Beach, and they even released a really unique and wonderful Christmas theme song back in December called Another Christmas that I highly recommend checking out. So without further ado, please help me welcome songwriter, producer, singer, and one half of the synth sensation band Thought Beings, Orion. Welcome to the podcast, dude.
Thank you for having me.
How's it going today?
It's going all right. I'm relaxing. It's nice and wintry still here where I'm at in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's definitely wintry up here in Canada.
Nice. Oh, I miss Canada.
What experiences have you had with Canada?
So I have been to Toronto about 4 years in a row. I have performed and DJ'd there for several of the prides and World Pride. I've also gone to Vancouver. So I love Canada. It's like my other home.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I've been to Toronto a handful of times. I'm on the East Coast in the Atlantic Canada.
Okay.
We've been doing well over here, all things considered in the world.
Yeah. For real.
And I also want to give a shout out to Lemon as well, who is the female voice of Thought Beings, and like her voice is absolutely incredible, and the depth that she adds to the band is just simply wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, she's gonna love hearing that. Lemon is currently at home. She our arrangement's a very interesting one. She and I have a long history of working together as a songwriting duo. And we first met a long time ago when she was actually she got signed to a label. It was a subsidy of Universal, and they were trying to develop her as a solo artist. And she had a great voice, beautiful lady, but I guess she wasn't really feeling it. I don't know, something just changed for her, and she didn't really want to be in the front anymore, and she wanted to step back and do songwriting. Now, I had met her while she was in development, and I was producing some music for her and helping producers with her. And when that project was shelved, I continued working with her, and we were making music and just kind of messing around musically, just seeing what can we do. She's not synthwave girl, so that's another thing that's I think was pretty interesting, is that she's very pop. She loves pop music, modern pop, old pop. I mean, just pop in general. And synth pop can fall in there, but she's not a synthwave person like I am. And I said, hey, I'm really into synthwave. I love 80s music. And she knew that about me. I always told her how much I loved 80s music, and she likes some of it, she's not like huge 80s fan, but she likes it. She's not against it or anything. And so when I brought it up, she's like, oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. And I thought, we can do this. And I know you don't want to be a pop singer anymore, but we can do this and just have artwork and like just have other things represent us. And our image can be anything we want. And we could just put out this music and let's see what happens. Yeah. And she loved it. She was like, that sounds perfect. That's what I want. And that's what I want too. And so our first single, Staying Here, it got a pretty good attention. It was pretty nice. Of course, it wasn't until after that we put out, I think it was Hell or High Water. And that one got really noticed. And that one got us a lot of fans, a lot of listeners. It got on New Retro Wave. And so then we both were like, all right, let's keep doing this. You know, we made an album. It was a lot of fun. And we decided we're going to make another album. And then we made Explorers. And yeah, and that's pretty much how we got started. And she's very happy that she doesn't have to do interviews. She doesn't have to take pictures. She doesn't want to have to do any of that. She just loves writing music. And so that's what we were doing for a while together, is we were writing music at Universal. But then that contract ended, and I haven't worked with them since. And so that's when we decided, well, let's keep having fun together and making music together. And that's how Thought Beings was born.
Yeah, well, I mean, being off social media, Lemon may be the wisest of us all.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting decision because, like, right before she said that, she was very into social media, like very much. And all her accounts are gone. Everything's gone. She's just wiped herself off. And I thought, okay, that's really cool. That bodes well for me because, you know, I'll never have to worry about her being like, well, I want to go solo, or I want my face now. Although there's going to be some surprises coming because she is really gorgeous. And so I do have to use her face eventually. So there may be a face reveal in the future. I'm not going to promise anything. But that's exactly what is perfect about this situation. I was like, awesome. So, and she loves it. She loves the cartoons of her. She loves it. She's just like living off of it because it's like we both love it because we can stay kind of timeless that way. And we don't have to worry about our image. We don't have to worry about our self-esteem. All we have to worry about is music. And that is a flawless plan for us. And we are loving it.
Yeah, I mean that's the best thing. I mean, it's all about the music, right? That's when you bring it back to basics, that's what it's all about. The music, the lyrics, the passion behind it. You know, that's just, it's not about, you know, whether you look good or not on a cover. It's about the music.
Exactly. That's why we wanted to test it out too. And we, you know, sad to say, we are more successful hiding behind artwork than we were when we were both putting our faces out there and in the limelight. So we're like, okay, well, then this is better. We're going to do this, which is great because we can grow really old and keep doing this, and it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to care because, like, the cartoons will still look amazing and the images will still look amazing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, so you guys, it sounds like you guys have an incredible friendship. Now, did you guys meet through Universal Music Studios?
Yes. We actually, it was a subsidy of them, and we did some songs together. I produced some music for her, and it was very like dance pop, and it did well. Not gonna say who it is or what it was, but it did all right. You know, it didn't do like great, but it did all right, but not enough for Universal to be like, okay, we're gonna just throw a ton of money into this. And so we just loved working together so much that I was like, she's like the coolest, most stoic person I've met, especially in this field. Artists, we tend to be really emotional. We tend to be like really like up and down and adventurous and wild. And she's a little different. She's like really mellow and stoic and just calm. And that is so cool because it's, I don't know, I'm a little more kind of wild and a little crazy. I'm very chatty too. And so she kind of balances me out. So that's kind of how our friendship really flourished, and we both loved anything she did. She lays down a vocal, I'm just like in love with it instantly. I'm like, this is amazing. Okay, thanks, you know. And I send her music, and she's like, awesome. Can't wait to write. And it's a good relationship.
Why synthwave and feature funk sounds? Because I mean, you said Lemon's pretty poppy, and which is incredible. I love the dynamic between you guys as well. It's like yin and yang. You almost feed off each other in the greatest ways.
Totally. Well, when I was a kid, and I will say that I was a teenager. I was not a teenager in the 80s. However, as a teenager, I was obsessed with the 80s, and it set me apart from my peers because it made me very unique. They're like, oh, there's the guy that listens to 80s music all the time. And so that was like my thing in high school. And so I was like, and that kind of set me apart, made me feel unique, made me feel special. And it was all synthesizers. And so I already learned piano since I was a little kid, since 6 years old. And so it was a natural step for me to just go to the pawn shops. And like during this time, there were some really cheap synths at the pawn shop that were not so cheap that the pawn shops didn't even know what they had. And so I bought a bunch of it, and then I just started making retro 80s music with kind of some other flares in it, but it was mostly 80s retro. And then I started making EDM, and that's where my career really kind of went. And I had a moderately successful career in the EDM scene as a producer, as a songwriter, as a DJ, like the whole thing. And I still work in that field as a songwriter, as a producer. A lot of it is paid ghost pay. So I don't mind doing that because I'm just, like I said, I just like to make the music. I'm not really seeking fame. I'm seeking fame for the music, if that makes any sense. And so naturally, when I realized synthwave was just blowing up, I was like, this all sounds like the music I used to make when I was in high school. Like, this sounds like 80s music. And I thought, and I love that music, and I miss that music. And now there's a platform for it. I was amazed. Because I grew up with all my peers saying, you listen to old ass music. What are you listening to? And, you know, and like now it's like not old ass music. It's like hot. And so that's when I said, Lemon, I got an idea. And that was that.
I love that story, man. I absolutely love that. Like with synthwave, like it's so weird for me with me coming into synthwave. Like I've told people this story before, and I've told people, like, you know, a few years ago, I really got into it. You know, I found a Deep House remix of the Midnight Vampires on a live stream on YouTube, and I was like, wow, I need to hear more of this. Who are these people? And that was just Deep House, and I've been really into tropical house and Deep House in the last like 4 or 5 years. And
yeah, I like that stuff.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And then that led me into synthwave through that Deep House remix. And once I found the Midnight, it's like the whole world lit up. The whole world was like, where was this music? This has been the feeling that I've been having my entire life, like with synthesizers and stuff like that. Even in high school, for me, I was the kid that always listened to Japanese music.
Nice. I love that.
And that always stood me up, but not in the greatest of ways, but I didn't care.
Right. Same here. Same. Yeah, totally.
So, you know, in Japanese artists, they're always using the synthesizers. They're really into guitars at some time, you know, at some point in careers and stuff. And it was just fantastic. But that 80s sort of feel, you know, my parents grew up listening to 80s music a lot, and I always heard it when I was younger. And just like you, and I wasn't a teenager in the 80s. I was born in 89. But for some reason, I have some sort of connection to that era. And I'm like, this music is incredible. It's like, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the dance music that we got from the 90s and the dance music that we get from the 2000s, but there's just some sort of passion that isn't represented anymore. But then the synthwave community turns around and brings that passion back in full force, and it's just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I agree. There's like a certain level of restraint I feel like EDM has, in my opinion, that with emotion, like don't do it too much or don't go too cheesy is like something in the industry that we hear a lot.
Yeah.
Especially with the executives, like when I submit some production stuff to the record label, and it's geared for some sort of pop or like, you know, EDM dance charts type of thing, I'll hear a lot, you know, got to hold back on the cheese. It's too cheesy. And the thing I like about synthwave is that like that doesn't matter. It's like full on, and you can call it cheese, you can call it emotion, you can call it beauty, anything. Or even the funk can get super kind of quote unquote cheesy, but it's all okay because like the 80s, that's what it was all about. It was all new, and so nobody thought anything was cheesy or too sappy or none of that. It was like, oh, this is hot, you know, just play this key, and any sound the synth made, everyone was just living for it at the time. So that kind of vibe is what I love about synthwave too.
Absolutely. Now, earlier before we came on the podcast, I spoke about diving into some of the tracks of yours and the background of said tracks. So let's dive into 3 tracks from Thought Beings. Jumping back in time in the summer of 2018, let's check out Hazy from Explorers. We'll share a 45-second clip and then talk about the track. How's that sound, Orion?
Sounds good.
All right. So without further ado, let's not keep the audience waiting. Here's a 45-second clip of Hazy by Thought Beings.
Rise for the night when the moment fades and the feeling dies in your mind. Cross the line, give it all your time. We can make it right. Even hazy when you wanna come.
what a beautiful and powerful song Hazy is. I mean, truth be told, that was the first song I have ever heard by Thought Beings. It was last year, and it's what made me a fan of your music. The lyrics are truly poetic, and your voice is incredibly powerful. I mean, Lemon brings a lot to the table, but your voice is just as incredible as well. We know lyrics are a form of poetry, but the way the lyrics are written in Hazy is just truly remarkable. It reminds me of a battle with your subconscious and coming to terms with life choices. But as we know, lyrics can be perceived in all different ways. So if you could, please tell the audience about Hazy, the background of the track, and how those beautiful lyrics came to be.
Awesome. Yeah, that you're pretty close actually. But yeah, that song was very emotional to make. It was a time in my life where I was struggling with a lot with the relationship. I mean, gosh, how much do I want to reveal about that song? Let's just say there's a little bit of a love triangle in the song as well. It's very interesting in that sense that the song is about being torn between the past and the present and where to find yourself. And that was my exploration of that. There's also some layered, deep stuff in there as well. There's things that I'm really into, old esoteric writings, old ancient texts, and those things really inspire me because they're just from a time that are so far removed from where we are now, and I like to include that. So it's all my songs lyrically will have these kind of deep layers of ancient wisdom, but most of it's kind of wrapped inside a song about my life or what's happening at the time that I wrote the song, because I find that the best lyrics are when you pull them from your own life.
I've loved writing lyrics myself. I haven't written any for years, and they haven't really gone anywhere, but that's just it. You know, you pull in whatever you're going through or maybe even other inspirations from other people about what they're going through, and you just write it down. And there's nothing wrong about that. There can't be anything wrong about it. It's your experience, and whatever comes, whatever comes from it comes from it.
That's awesome. Yes. Write poetry. I always tell everyone, write poetry. Who cares if it's bad? Just write it. It's freeing to put your thoughts on paper, and then to even try to do something magical with it, like making it rhyme or making the beats of the words and syllables. It's just like a magical experience, and I think everyone should do that. And I do it all the time. I'm like constantly writing bad poems all the time, and eventually some of those I will flesh out into full lyrics and songs. But yeah, that's cool.
Poetry is nothing but feeling, and there's never a wrong feeling.
Exactly.
Now, regarding the rest of the album, the plot you created behind Explorers, I find is incredibly refreshing. May I share it with the audience?
Yeah.
So, Explorers by Thought Beings is the story of 3 teenage stargazers in the summer of 1985 who are swept away by otherworldly visitors to explore faraway galaxies, alien civilizations, and embark on a once-in-a-lifetime journey of teenage self-discovery. Please enjoy this 1980s coming-of-age science fiction audio adventure. Now, I absolutely love that. It sounds like a TV series that needs to be made, or a movie, something on Netflix. I don't care where it comes from. It needs to be made. So how did you guys come up with such a refreshing story?
Well, thank you. I also love to write short stories. And I always found that the best albums kind of had this story. Like, in my opinion, I always noticed that albums always have this theme, this like cohesiveness, and I never know how they do it. But for me, I always thought, okay, if I'm going to make an album, I want it to be a story. So I will write a short story. And it's not like a really full-fledged short story. It's like a short story. Basically, what you read is kind of like the beginning of it, and then it goes into a little more. And we take that and then we draw on it and make an album out of it. And so we think, okay, we're going to make a bunch of songs keeping this in mind, and then mixing our own lives into it, mixing the things that we like to read, that Lemon likes to read. But this whole story is how we both kind of stay cohesive. And we usually write about like 20 songs and then whittle them down to the best 10. And that's how we do that. Yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. I mean, Now, moving on to November 2020, only 2 months ago, you and Lemon released your third album entitled Neon Beach, another album with a radical plot, which I'm just loving from your releases, with tracks like Digital Hideaway, Satellite, Paradise, Feel Alive, which is one of my favorites, and Rain makes you feel like you're on a funky trip in the best of ways. I think the greatest line in the description of the album is, quote, unapologetically retro like it's 1986 and MTV is playing the newest cuts, plug into the nostalgia and enjoy, unquote. Like, we have 2 previews to share from that album, but before we dive into those preview tracks, how did the plot for even Neon Beach come to be? I imagine it couldn't have been easy to put together with how, crazy 2020 was.
Oh yeah, this is fun. We took vacation to Hawaii. And I have family there, so it was kind of nice to be there and visit family. But Lemon and I were there, and we got an Airbnb, and it was like right by the water, so we had a nice view of the water. And we went there to just see if we can either have a nice vacation or write stuff. And while we were there, like, we were tinkering around on music, and I had gotten inspired by just seeing the beauty of the island, the ocean, the water, but mixed with the juxtaposition of like neon lights and the city and then seeing like people on the beach and everyone was on their phones, and it inspired this short story, another one called Neon Beach, which you can see in the summary of the album, that it's about the Neon Beach is actually a neurological program. So people go in to plug in. It's like treatment, but it's also like vacation. I kind of borrowed from Total Recall, if you've ever seen that movie.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, and so that's all. I just made this short story, and then Lemon was like, okay, this is awesome. So this was pre-pandemic, of course. So this was like in 2016, I believe, not 2016. Oh, gosh, 2018. And then we were like, great, we're going to go back home. We're going to really make this album work. We're all going to get together. We're going to have a huge studio thing. And then the pandemic hit. And so we were like, okay, well, we can just do this how we used to always do it. We'll just email back and forth. I have guitarists that I work with. I have musicians, trumpets. I have anyone that I can work with remotely and is willing to. I asked them to join, and so that's how we did that.
It's fantastic. I mean, how do you come up with such incredible short stories? I mean, I tell you, there's a TV series waiting there for you.
I know. I want to publish these stories eventually. I think that would be really cool. I have a really vivid imagination. I think as a kid, I just was a form of escape that really worked for me, was just to create stories, because I've always loved writing stories too. As a kid, I won an award for Best Original Short Story, and I just was like, okay, cool, I won an award, like I can do this. And so I would always write that. At the same time, I was learning piano, so it was kind of two things that went hand in hand. And I read books constantly, so it's just like my imagination is always running wild.
It's crazy how many people are in their phones. Like, just when you mentioned everybody was on the beach, they're pretty much in paradise, and everyone's on their phones, and that's kind of how the world is ended up nowadays. And I've caught myself too, and I try to catch myself more and more. Like, there'll be days now where I'm just like, nope, my phone's off for the entire day. I'm not allowed to go near it.
Oh yeah. What's funny is, like, me and Lemon were judging everyone all up and down, and then of course we go back to our little makeshift studio in our Airbnb to all this technology. like who's really like escaping? Nobody's escaping. We're all connected, plugged in. Even if we try to make the conscious effort not to, some way or another we're going to be plugged right back in, which has made me realize, what if we're in like a program? What if this is a simulation that we don't even know we're in? And that's why we're constantly having to plug in. And I was like, oh, let's write that story.
Thought about that too. I mean, there's all these radical theories out there.
Yeah.
About, how the world came to be or what is, but the simulation one is definitely an interesting one, especially if we can make, simulations like virtual reality.
Can you imagine? Yeah. And that's what Neon Beach is. It's a simulation. And the whole album to me is it's like a simulation. We did it virtually. We couldn't do it together. It's just, like, it all is like a virtual experience. It's cool.
Yeah.
I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, it sounds it, man. It sounds it. I mean, a trip to paradise too is incredible as well. I definitely want to go there one of these days.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful there. Beautiful.
Now, the second track on the album, entitled Satellite, I think that may be my favorite track on the album. But honestly, it's a toss-up between that, Digital Hideaway, and Lemon's incredible voice on Rain. That song is just beautiful. I can't even...
Yes.
There's not enough words to describe how beautiful Rain is.
Oh, that makes me so happy to hear. You know, Rain doesn't get enough love. So that in that song, I will say Lemon, and she's fine with me saying this, like, she reached into her heart and ripped it out for that song, because that song is about some real shit. And so, like, she's going to be happy to hear that. That's going to make her hella happy.
Yeah, I mean, I could feel the emotion. I mean, I don't, however far, how many miles we are away from each other, I felt that when I was going through Neon Beach. I was like, oh my gosh, this song is just so powerful. I need to mention it. I can't not be one of my favorites.
Awesome.
So I mean, thank you, Lemon, for that. Thank you for
thank you,
reaching
Lemon.
in and sharing that with the world. So before we chat about Satellite, because that was one of the clips that we were going to share, do you mind if we chat briefly about the video of Digital Hideaway? I had a blast watching it.
Oh, yeah.
I think that video represented your artwork of all of your albums perfectly. Like it seems like with all your albums, you have like a lot of different geometric but synthwavy shapes, and that video is just a perfect representation of it all. Like, what was the inspiration behind it, and why specifically Digital Hideaway?
Digital Hideaway was basically the song on the album that really touches upon the whole everyone was on their phones while we were on the beach, everyone was plugging in even though we were in paradise. Like, that song is about that, and kind of how I felt and how I saw everything when I would kind of look at it through that lens. And so I also am really into, like you said, geometric shapes and our artwork. I also love sacred geometry, and so it's all just something that I really love to read about, and I just make it part of our artwork every time. And so I wanted to do that, which I didn't know this until I'm going to be forthright. I'm a little embarrassed, but I didn't know about the Memphis design until last year, and which is kind of like, oh my gosh, I've been using the Memphis design. I've been like living for the Memphis design, and now I know what it is. And so with that in mind, I thought this would mix perfectly with our song about people's digital obsessions and needing to hide into them. And so I thought, it's like the 80s equivalent. It was very commercial. It was very like body, and it was very like, just, look at these shapes and these random colors. It doesn't make sense, but it does. And so that's what I wanted to, I was like, that's perfect. That's exactly how I felt. And that's how I want the video to look. And of course, we got models and everything to just kind of give it that 80s sexiness. And we were kind of also not making fun, but it's kind of like in the 80s, a lot of music videos didn't really make much sense. And there was just like, oh, cool, here's this scene. Like, there's always like a lady with all of a sudden a horse is in the fog and things like that. And so we thought, yeah, let's make fun of that a little bit. And so these random scenes, there's a breakdancing dude and these girls all in these different colors and all these weird shapes, and just make it ultra cheesy. And so that's what we did.
There's never enough cheese in synthwave. All the best cheese.
I live for the cheese, yes.
I swear one of these days a synthwave artist is going to release a new album and then just give a bottle of wine to everybody that buys a special edition.
It's a big old block of cheddar.
Yeah, there you go. Now, getting back to Satellite, as I said, we'll share a 45-second clip, and we'll dive into the background of that track as well. So here is Satellite by Thought Beings off the new album, Neon Beach.
Fading fast and counting all the miles from ground control. We can feast upon the beauty of it all. When the tide is in our pockets, we're approaching atmosphere. Upon entry and descension, we are here. A satellite tonight, born the night and come alive. A satellite tonight, take us away from all this strife.
Now, Lemon does an incredible job on that track. Could you please tell the audience the inspiration behind that track as well? And it's such an incredible, funky dance song.
Yeah. So thank you. This song is definitely inspired by Miami Sound Machine, which is a huge inspiration for both of us. She loves them too. Who doesn't love Conga and a lot of her other hits that they had? And so we wanted to do that, like freestyle, Miami's freestyle 80s. And the lyrics is a part of the story where the main character, she realizes that there's something off about where she's at. So she's always at the beach, she's always waking up, she's always driving around at night, and she keeps noticing these satellites. And so she starts chasing them. And the moment she starts chasing them is when she starts getting followed. And so this song is kind of about that. Also, there's a point where she meets a love interest, and then this person goes with her. So it's basically a love song, but it's also about chasing the unknown, and the unknown is the satellite.
Love it, man. I absolutely love it. I mean, I didn't even know that. I couldn't tell. Like, you know, again, like songs get perceived in many different ways, but I mean, I love it. Like, I love the track. I love the lyrics, but I didn't think it was that in depth. I mean, thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, on the surface, it is basically like a love song with space and satellite metaphors, but we got the idea from that part of the story. So yeah.
That makes some of the great music out there, though. Like the more metaphors, the better the song.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I worry that our lyrics are a little too abstract, because we tend to really love abstract stuff, and we don't go as literal as a lot of other artists do, which is fine. And so, you know, that may be something we explore in the future, but we are really abstract with our lyrics.
Well, more the metaphors, the more the merrier.
Yeah, totally, right? I love it too. I love that weird poetry, you know?
Yeah, well, it's just excellent. Now, the other song you wanted to discuss was Sundown from Neon Beach, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's not keep the audience waiting any further on that one either. So here's a 45-second clip of Sundown from Neon Beach by Thought Beings. So I just want to cut to the chase with this song. Those lyrics are remarkable in the best of ways. And I know I've tossed around that word a lot, but I think my favorite part of the song is, quote, "We've always been easy come till we saw the easy go." Like, unquote. I think that was so interesting and so unique to share that perspective. Like, could you tell the audience the creative energy that was put into that track as well?
Yeah. So, okay, the reason I brought this track up, because this is kind of like a quote unquote sleeper hit of ours. It's the most played track on Spotify from our album and on Apple Music. Nice. And it surprised us. So, because this song was originally an instrumental. And when we submitted it to the record label, they were like, we think this song, they're like, it's really strong, but we think it needs a vocal to be stronger. And so Lemon and I were like, oh boy, all right, let's figure this out. And so, we got the music, we started thinking, and we were like, what part of the story can this be? And I mean, basically it's pretty much the end of the story. We kind of just surmise everything, and it's us singing about, kind of like the end of things. Like, this is the last song we're working on for the album. We were very excited too, because the Aztec Records was going to put it out, and they were going to make vinyl and tapes, and so we were just like, we were just super excited. And I'm like, all right, we'll sing about endings and new beginnings. It's simple, it's basic, it's what they want. They want us to kind of close this out. Let's close it out. And so it's a poem about endings and beginnings, and yeah.
Man, I'm just so happy that you're sharing that with everyone, because I mean, it's such an incredible album, and I don't want to undersell, I don't want to oversell it either. I just want to tell people exactly how it makes me feel. Like, the album from start to finish, telling a story behind each album. Like, I absolutely love it. when an album tells a story from start to finish. And honestly, I wish more artists would do it. I know some do, some don't, but it's always nice to have an album full of songs, that connect from, the beginning to the end. I mean, it's nice to, it's nice to hear an album that's a little mixed up. If you have one song that's talking about dance, another song that's talking about this, has nothing to do with the other. Yeah. But when an album tells a story, I feel it really brings the artist and the listener together in the best of ways.
Totally. And I want to thank Aztec Records for it. I feel like Neon Beach is our most cohesive album, like out of all of our albums. And that has a lot to do with Aztec Records, because they really I think we submitted, it was about 15 songs, 15 or 14. And it got whittled down to 9. And at first I was like, gosh, all those songs, those are integral parts of the story. But then it's basically like the editor took my short story and was like, we don't need this and this. And now it's like a concise, beautifully to the point story, and it's impactful. And I was so appreciative of them taking the time and having the courage to tell us, hey, not these songs like that. I'm like, awesome. And I don't have an ego with this music, because it's like this music that's just existing in this space that's like, it's not, there's no face, there's no name, it's just these beings, and that's what I like about it. And so I'm like, yeah, if you think this will make it even a better story, then let's do this. And so I really thank Aztec Records for making Neon Beach just the perfect cohesion.
Mentioning all those missing tracks as well. I mean, it's great that you have, being able to get an editor and say, this track works here, this track here works here. We don't really need this track in that album, but those tracks were created. I mean, will the audience ever hear them ever? Maybe on B-sides in the future, or maybe even a B-side album?
Oh yeah, we're planning on neon B-sides.
Nice.
So that way we can, because I think they're pretty good songs. They were mastered. I do, now that I listen to them off to the side, there is a level of, there's just something more special about the songs on Neon Beach. And then I noticed, I'm like, okay, I can hear why they wanted to get these out. Because then it would be like a 15-song album, and that's just like, I think for a label to put something out like that, it's a little more costly than if I were just to independently digitally put it out. So I'm going to just release the B-sides for everyone to hear, because they're really fun songs. They're very, a lot more like Satellite, like 80s Miami freestyle type of music.
Cool. Yeah. One of those songs, I think it was, oh man, I might get this wrong, but I think it was from Explorers 2, the Shakedown.
Ooh, yeah. I like that.
I love that song. I love it so much. It's such a fun song to dance to.
Yeah, little fun fact, that song's about Mr. Robot, if you've ever seen that show.
Oh man, no way.
Yeah.
Oh man, Mr. Robot was the shit. I love that show.
It's Darlene and Elliot. It's basically those two. It's what we wrote the song about.
Oh man, that gives a whole new meaning to that song for me. I don't even care. That's amazing. Oh man, I was so sad when that show came to end. It was such an incredible show.
So good. But you know what? That's how they had to end it, just like on a high note.
Yeah, for sure. I think that one scene there between his sister and the detective there, I can't remember. Oh my gosh, I'm missing their names now. With the airport scene, and she tried to make it. Oh
man, that was heartbreaking.
Oh man, right in the feels. And I was like,
right.
Oh.
Yeah. Such a good show. Yeah, me and Lemon obsessed with that show, and that's why we were like, that will fit in the theme of this story about, this space exploration, because it's like Darlene and Elliot. They're part of the kid group. Let's do it. And so we did it.
Oh, there's so much behind that show too, like so much writing and everything.
Yeah, it inspired so much. I was just like, this show is inspirational.
That's an easy segue into my next question for you too, because I know we've talked a little bit more about your creativity throughout the podcast and everything, and what sort of things inspire you and Lemon. But I mean, right now we just learned Mr. Robot inspired one of the most incredible songs I love. But I mean, like I know for myself, I get very creative in the evening and in the middle of the night. I feel that's the best time for me. But what inspires you, and what about you when it comes to creating things? Is it in the middle of the night, the daytime, or are you just being able to create whenever?
Well, because I created Thoppings also as kind of like a side thing for my EDM career, for lack of a better word. I hate using the word EDM, but yeah, for that, it was more of like, when I want to have fun making music, I'm going to work on Thoppings, because the other stuff was my career. So it wasn't as fun. It's actually not. It's not as fun for me to make EDM music anymore, because Thought Beings is so much freaking fun. But now Thought Beings is changing. We've gotten these licensing deals and all these things are changing. So it's becoming a little more like work, but it's still so fun because it's 80s music. So I must confess, I listen to 80s music probably still nonstop, like every day. And I listen to deep cuts, like things that weren't on the radio, like deep 80s cuts. And so that constantly makes me want to just write songs and more songs. And like, I literally have I imagine I have like maybe 40 songs that are ready to just be produced and record. Some are even recorded and just never finished, never released, because it's anything will inspire me. But the most that inspires me is reading. When I read stuff, like when I read like a beautiful passage in a book, I love to read Tennessee Williams. I love to read Mark Twain, Ernest Hemingway. And I love the classics, especially American classics, and just the sentiments that they have and just the visceral way they describe their reactions and their emotions. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. That's what I want to do, but I'm going to make it more abstract. And that tends to inspire me too.
There was one book that I was recommended to by Tyler Lyle from the Midnight, and recently over Christmas. And I'm not much of a reader. I've never been much of a reader, but to anybody who can sit down and read a book, I have nothing but respect, because I don't have the attention span for it. And even when it comes to audiobooks, like I don't know what it is. I'd rather listen to an album from start to finish, and that's my version of reading. Or audio.
Yeah. Lemon's not a book reader either.
But I mean, one book though I wanted to point out that was very heartwarming that I haven't fully listened to yet, but I've heard bits and pieces of it. Was it's by Martin Shaw, and it's by it's called Courting the Wild Twin.
Oh.
And it talks about just like that wild that self that when you're born, you lose that self, that special part of you. You lose it because of society's pressures. Mm-hmm. And over time, you start to learn about, you find that twin and you become who you are, who you've always meant to be. But, as you grow, like that twin is with you, that spiritual twin is with you the second you're born. But as you get older, you start to lose it and lose it and lose it because of all of the things that you've learned or pressured to, or, for instance, like if you've been told you don't like this, or you shouldn't like this, or a bully bullies you from liking something special, and then you lose that part of yourself. So with someone who loves books, I figured I'd recommend it.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. It kind of reminds me what you're talking about is I actually tweeted the other day that I believe the creative adult is the child who survived. Kind of reminds me of that. Like,
yeah, that's deep too.
Yeah.
Love it.
Like you have a twin that you can reconnect with. Like I feel like everyone can reconnect with the child inside, and yeah, cool. Yeah, that sounds really inspirational.
Kind of reminds me of that meme. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but there's this like young kid and she's playing with the sprinklers and getting soaked, and she's like, that version of you is still inside you.
Oh no, I haven't seen that.
It's really cute and it's really deep, like just seeing a kid, playing with the sprinklers and getting soaked, not worrying about if their hair is wet, not worrying about makeup, not worrying about, anything around her. She's just in the moment being who she always wants to be. And then as you get older, society pressure changes you without you even realizing it.
Exactly. It's like, it's the beauty about being a child is that you're always living in the present, because there's not much of a past and there's not much insight to what a future looks like. And it's like once you get to a certain age, all of a sudden the past and the future start existing. And that's when you kind of, I think, lose that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I've been feeling in my 30s. I mean, I just turned 31 there a couple of months ago, and I'm like, you know what? Everything that I used to love, I still love, and I'm just gonna be absolutely annoying about it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I don't care who knows it.
You only got this one life. Exactly.
We've heard about the creative process and what inspires you, but do you know anything that inspires Lemon?
Yeah. She does, like I said, she loves pop music, so she loves listening to the radio and enjoying good old pop music. She also loves movies. I know that she loves to watch movies. She doesn't read as much. When she reads, she likes to read a lot of. She actually might like this Courting the Wild Twin you were talking about. She likes to read a lot of self-help stuff. And like I said, she's very stoic. So she does a lot of meditation and yoga. And I think she draws a lot of inspiration in those moments where she's like connecting with the source, and she's really good at that. And so I believe that's where she pulls a lot of it. It's like, I could almost call it divine inspiration where she pulls it from. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Now, I know a lot of synth artists have collaborated with each other. You know, you always hear so many artists collaborating within the synth fam. Are there any synth artists that you and Lemon would like to work with in the future?
Yeah. Gosh. You know, we actually, I mean, I will say we're chatting with a couple of artists. Nothing for sure now, but we're chatting with Griff from Australia. Nice. We're chatting with Caesarina because we're just living for her style and her music, everything, like the whole package is so fierce. And like Lemon and I are just like, yeah, she's fierce. One of the things that we both have in common is fashion too. So just by the way, so that's one of the things that we liked about Caesarina. We're also talking with Bunny X, who is on our record label. We have a lot of similar references when we talk, and I'm thinking, oh, we could do something with them. Yeah. And then, I'm trying to think of anyone big or huge. Who would we like to work with, like, really huge? Maybe, gosh, I can't even think of anyone. I mean, who doesn't want to work with the Midnight, right? I mean, I feel right? Basic saying that, but, like, I'm going to put it out there, okay? Hey, guys.
The Midnight are such divas now.
Like, yeah, that's it. Or Gunship, right? I'll work with Gunship. What's up? Yeah. I doubt we're even a bleep on their radar.
Well, I tell you though, I feel there's something there between Lemon and Nina.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. Oh, and Nina's a label mate, so that would be really cool.
Yeah, I don't know why, but whenever I hear Lemon's voice, especially in that Rain that we spoke about briefly, I just feel like her and Nina could just knock out some sort of iconic, divine, spiritual, emotional song that would just last in synthwave lovers' ears for forever.
That's a really cool idea. We always think of when we collaborate, we think, okay, if it's a guy, then Lemon will sing with him, or if it's a girl, then I will sing with him. But now I'm like, why not put two females together? Like, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, well, you mentioned Griff as well, like Orion and Griff. That would be sweet. Like, Griff's incredible as well.
Oh, that's right. Like 2 guys. Yeah, that'd be cool.
So with about 10 minutes left in the podcast, I've started getting to know each artist that has come on here just a little bit more outside of music. I think it's refreshing for the audience to learn a thing or two about the artist that they love so much. So with that being said, could we dive into some or even one of your favorite hobbies or interests outside of your music?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's see here. I liked to draw. I like to write. Well, yeah, I talked a lot about that. Let me see. What else do I like to do? I also do yoga. I love yoga. Lemon turned me onto that, and it really is very soothing. And then I read and practice a ton of philosophy. I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with especially Greek philosophy. Yeah, it's just, and their whole pantheon of mythology too. It's just like, I'm obsessed with it. And so I tend to get obsessed with something and just like read every piece of literature I can find on it. And that's kind of one of the things I do too.
I really respect that a lot. When you find one thing, you just have to find everything about it. It's how I am with music. It's like if I hear one song by one artist and it does something to me, I'm like, I need more. I need everything. I need to find every interview. I need to find out who this artist is.
Oh yeah, I can relate. I'm the same with music too.
Same with like a TV show or movies. It's like if I see this TV show, I'm like, okay, is there a prequel? Is there any of this? Is there a sequel? Who's the actors? And blah, blah, blah. Like, I need to know everything.
Exactly. Totally. Yeah, I'll do that too with a TV show. I'll be like, oh, I really liked this show. Like, The Expanse I've been watching, and I'm just obsessed with it. And so I've been learning about every actor and just, like, consuming every information I have about the show and the book and everything behind it. So, yeah, I do that with shows too. It's good to be obsessive sometimes.
Yeah, I've heard some really good things about The Expanse. I haven't checked it out, but I'm always for anything. Like I think it's a little sci-fi, right?
Yeah, it's a slow burner, but like once you get into I think probably like the 6th episode of the first season, it starts really picking up on that futuristic sci-fi action, and you're like, whoa, this is amazing. But it takes a while. But yeah.
Did you check out Cobra Kai?
Not yet. It's on my list. Everyone's been talking about it, and I was like, "What is this?" And so I went to Netflix and I was like, "Okay, that's up next." I just finished all of the Star Trek Generations. I watched the last episode yesterday. That's what I decided to do over quarantine, is watch every day one episode of the Star Trek Next Generation.
Nice. My partner loves that series as well, the Star Trek universe and everything in it. Like, it's funny. I love sci-fi to death, but the two series that I've never gotten into are Star Wars and Star Trek, and everybody can bring all the hate.
Wow. You know what, though? I got to commend that you actually, those are like the two like zeitgeists of science fiction, and you just happen to stay away from both.
I know it's nuts. Like, I've seen Star Wars, one of the I think it's the second movie. And I've seen like bits and pieces of Star Trek here and there, but like I've seen Stargate. I love Stargate.
Oh, Stargate, yeah.
Stargate. So, but just, yeah, I love all of these sci-fi shows, and it's the same with Supernatural. Like, I love Supernatural shows, but you know the one show I haven't watched? Supernatural.
You're like, not the main stuff.
It's
you
not
like
even,
the deep cuts of sci-fi.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm not even like, Star Trek is excellent, and like even like it's absolutely excellent from start to finish. The stories that are behind it, everything that I've learned from it, like from hearing from it sounds incredible. I don't know. Maybe I just can't sit down and catch up on it now. Maybe it's too late for me. I'm too far gone.
I always had an aversion to it. I always thought, oh gosh, this is really slow, and what is this? But when you're in quarantine, you're just limited on things, and so I thought, let me give it a try, because my partner also loves it, and so I was like, let me give it a try, and I watched it, and it's really pretty. It's a really lovely show. It's very lovely. That's how I'll describe it.
What about Stranger Things?
Oh yeah, good time show. Very much. I remember, especially the first season, right? The first season was like the one. But they've all been fun.
I think what hit me in the feels the most about that series was, oh man, it's been a year now since I've watched it. I'm going to catch up when season 4 is coming out again. I'm going to rewatch everything. But the boy that was taken there, at the beginning, he was in the other universe, whatever, or the other reality. And there was one scene where it's like everybody was growing up, but he kind of felt left behind.
Yeah.
He still wanted to do the childhood things, but they didn't want to do that anymore. I was like, oh man, I feel that. Like,
oh, I remember that.
Oh man. So before we end things, what are the goals of Orion and Lemon moving forward in 2021? What can fans expect? And are there any other projects or appearances that you'll be making?
Well, let's see. We are definitely looking forward to making more music. I was going to tweet this, but I already got the vision for the whole next album. So I'm guessing that the rest of this year, we're going to start working on that. And then also, I think, the movie came out. So we had a song in a movie, which was really fun. And that movie was called American Zombies. And I watched it the other day. And then honestly, we want to do some collabs. We don't really do those. So I don't have the best luck with collabs. For some reason, they always kind of fall through. So I'm hoping that this is the year that you'll see us with some pretty good collabs. And the artists we're talking to, it seems like it's going to happen. So we're really excited about that.
I mean, speaking of collaborators, just once again there, another one that just popped into my head with Thought Beings and even how Neon Beach was. I think Primo the Alien would fit right in.
Oh yeah. She you know what? I recently heard about her. She did a song with one of our label mates, with Sunglasses Kid, and that was a really good song.
Yeah, Primo's absolutely amazing, and Sunglasses Kid is fantastic as well.
Oh yeah, big fan of his.
Well, with that, we will wrap things up. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, Orion.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and I mean, LMP is happy to have you on anytime.
Awesome. Thank you.
Could you share your social media with everyone so people know where to find you guys?
Yeah. So our best bet to find all of our social medias would be at thoughtbeingsmusic.com. And then our Instagram is, how do they do the Instagram? It's like instagram.com/thought_beings. And then I'm also really active on Twitter. And that one is Twitter.com/thoughtbeings, all one word. And yeah, those are our main socials.
Well, thank you so much. And as for our socials, you can find us at SoundCloud under Lotus Moon Productions, Facebook under Lotus Moon Productions, Instagram under Lotus M Productions, Twitter under Lotus Moon Prod, and you can search us on YouTube under Lotus Moon Productions. This has been LMP Music. Please be safe. Please be kind to one another. And with that, we are signing off.